Hey folks, my name is Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Uncensored. Black Hand of the Mexican Mafia. Prison gang politics.
Hey folks, my name is Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored. Welcome back to another episode of the reading of the Black Hand. Epic for the channel. I promised you guys it's happening. So, we got another segment. And just understand that these segments are going to be as long as the chapter is. I get it. People want 30, 40-minute audio and video. Sometimes we have to go with what we got. Unless you want me to start joining multiple chapters. But I'd like to get 38 chapters out of this because each book I read, like that book right there, is being put aside. They're going to be numbered, serialized, and we're going to auction them off. So there's going to be 38 books in total, starting from 1 to 38. I think 1 is going to be the most valuable one. Maybe number 13. I'm just thinking. But I think that's what's going to be. We are going to do that, folks. And I want you to know that this is all new equipment for me right now. I just got to do camera. I got to do lighting system. I'm trying it out. And I am not a technological genius. I figured this out without my editor. She happens to be in church. I just got out of church. And I wanted to get this out, test this new equipment. I went to the store, bought a bunch of stuff. And yeah. I'm trying it. We want to bring you just a little different quality, just to improve the production value a bit. But we're going to run this now. This is about Chris's foreword, right? His introduction, actually. And I remember this conversation specifically. He told me how about my mom that called him and reamed him out, and he was a bit little frightened because she was a mob mom, right? And my mom had quite a bit of juice. They used to call her La Reina, and she used to do all the product there in White Fence area, believe it or not. And the Cardenas go visit her, and she was a regular. Mom was a gangster. So let's get into this intro. I'll pause every here now and again, make commentary. I wanted to bring this a little different because I think the anecdotes are what do it for the stories, right? Not just a talking head. So, and we want these numbers up, folks. Be sure and hype this video. Hype. Hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, share it with a friend, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you don't remember, we have merch available on www.realreneenriquez.com. We have Patreon. There's memberships here, so if you guys want to support the channel, you can become a member from $5 to $100 memberships. And we're going to do drawings for the members of each Patreon and YouTube as well. We'll do that on a monthly basis. And we're going to start all this because we're all kicking into gear here. We just started the lives on Friday, and I thought that went awesome. You know, for my first live, I thought it was awesome. Thank you all for participating in that live. We're going to have another one Friday, same time, same place, same channel, same bat channel. Remember that? Same bat time, same bat channel. All right. So without further ado, let's kick off this video right now. Here we go. Chris Blatchford, his introduction. I'm reading it. And I read like a robot. But let's push through. Let's power on through. We're going to go to Chris's introduction, right? Introduction. It was near the end of a long day in October 1995 when the phone rang at my office desk. I had just finished presenting the third segment of a long investigative story that explained how a convicted triple murderer, acting as his own attorney, was abusing the court system to facilitate Mexican Mafia business. It was a court case that launched Operation Pelican Drop, an expensive secret top security transportation of more than a dozen of California's worst high-risk inmates, including Reneboxerenriquez, Enriquez, whom I described as a notorious mob hitman. While chasing different organized crime stories in the past, I'd experienced my share of angry calls and more than a few death threats. I wasn't in the mood for any fresh ones, and I hesitated to pick up the receiver, but I did. A feisty woman on the other end of the line eviscerated me with a torrent of punishing words. She didn't like what she'd seen on TV, especially my portrayal of Rene Enriquez. It was not the only time I had featured him in a piece about the Mexican Mafia. Yeah, let me stop it right there. Chris was killing me. on TV, right? He had just latched onto me somehow. One day he just popped up in the courtroom with a camera, and from each court appearance thereafter, he was there with a cameraman and with a pointing a mic in my face, and he got the judge to let him set up and film me, and he was like killing me. But I'll tell you what, my ego was such at that time that I loved it. I loved being on TV. Like I had received that recognition I was chasing, and I was getting it. You know, I was doing some outlandish stuff in the county jail, and it caught the attention of the organized crime prosecutors division, and I think they're the ones that called Chris Blatchford because they were seeking death penalty at that time, and I remember Chris being there every time I went to court. Every time he was there, and at that time he never asked me for an interview. He never did. I wouldn't have given him one anyways. I was of a mind at that time that interviews were not good for mobsters, right? Not like today. Everybody gets out there and does an interview and it's cool. But here we go. Let's take off with the introduction again for Chris. I'll start where I left off. Also known as Laeme. I had first done a sweeping 5-part TV news expose and documentary in October 1991 about the resurgence of the Mexican Mafia and portrayed Enriquez as a brutal, heroin-addicted mafia hitman. During research on that piece, I'd interviewed an associate of Enriquez's and a recent mafia dropout, who had both done a number of hits for the mob. It's interesting to note that the two hardened killers agreed to talk to me about any subject with one exception. They would not answer questions about boxer Enriquez. He generated that kind of fear. In May of 1994, I described boxer Enriquez as a Mexican Mafia killer. During a 4-part in-depth expose I did on 18th Street, the largest criminal street gang in Los Angeles, with an estimated 20,000 members. It was involved in extortion, drug dealing, murder, and had close ties with the ruthless Emma. Now the angry woman on the other phone identified herself as Lupe Enriquez, Boxer's mother. She insisted he was a good-hearted son, not the murderous mobster I described. I, on the other hand, was something less than pond scum for running down her beloved boy. I figured the last thing I needed to do was insult some notorious mafia guy's mother, and I tried to soothe her wrath. After about 20 minutes on the phone, she decided I was a nice man after all. Lupe Enriquez suggested that if I wrote to Rene, he would probably do an interview with me, so as to warn young people away from the evils of gang life. So I crafted a letter and mailed it to the maximum security prison in California. A month later, a 2-page response, handwritten on lined yellow legal paper, arrived from Pelican Bay State Prison. The letter expressed a bit of surprise that I had written him. He informed me that he was aware of the stories I had broadcast about him and that he was not desirous of that type of exposure. Yet he understood that I was a journalist merely reporting on events. There was a polite refusal of my request for a TV interview with a little barb attached. I have no interest in being splayed across the TV screen and dubbed a hitman, as you seem to affectionately entitle me. But the letter writer made it clear I should feel no threat. Rest assured that I harbor no animosity for you whatsoever. In closing, I wish to thank you for the cordiality with which you treated my mother. I also appreciate the honesty which you displayed in your letter to me and your willingness to be frank. I place a high degree of emphasis on a man's personal integrity. If you feel the need, please do not hesitate to contact me in the future. It was signed sincerely, Rene Enriquez, boxer. In May 19th, I remember crafting that letter. It shocked me that he wrote to me, right? Like he was nice. He wrote me a letter on Fox 11 letterhead and asked me to do an interview, and I kind of declined it. That was a barb, you know. That was a barb. I was firing shots at him, but not threatening shots. More like I was talking ish, right? In a sophisticated way, right? I didn't want the coverage at that point, right? I mean, I still gloated in it. I still gloated in this guy doing news stories on me, and they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And he'd do documentaries on the mob, and he would have me as a key figure in there, and my ego was just eating that up like fried ice cream, you know. But he did write, and I remember sitting down and writing the letter. I even showed it to Tecolote and Nidal, right? Nidal was my cellie, and I wanted to show him I'm declining this interview because I wasn't having anything to do with that. Unlike old catfish lips, who jumped right in front of the camera first chance he got. 97, Rene wrote to ask me if I could make some still photographs from the videotapes I had shot of him during court appearances. He was locked down in a security housing unit, SHU, at Pelican Bay State Prison and was not allowed to take photos of himself. Rene wanted to send some relatively recent pictures to his family members. I complied with his request and joked that the courtroom photos looked better than mugshots. He quickly sent me a thank you note saying, "You're right. They sure beat mugshots." A happy face was sketched right next to the comment. In the following years, I remember I hit him up for these pictures, right? Because this was back in the day where you could not take pictures at all. There were no pictures. And if you were there for 10 or 15 years, your family did not have an image of you. All they got was a booking photo. If you're lucky to get that somewhere. But Chris took what are called video grabs, right? They freeze the frame, they crop the picture, and they send it to you. Send me a bunch of them, 8x10s, 5x6s. And there was one funny one. He used this image right here, the body, the black hand, right? But he superimposed his face on it and gave himself a little thin cholo mustache. And he put a menacing look on his face. It was hilarious. I think I got that picture somewhere. If I find it, I'll put it up, right? But it was so funny that he pictured himself. This is before AI. This is all computer graphics they were using, right? So I guess he had his editor do it, and it was hilarious. Chris Blatchford with my body, a black hand on his chest, and his face with a little cholo mustache. It was and a menacing look. It was like I tell you, I cannot be described in words. I just have to show you. So if I can find that picture somewhere, I'll post it, and I think you guys will get a kick out of it. Miss cards from Pelican Bay every year, and always sent one in return. The messages were short, holiday greetings, wishing each other and our families the best. Usually, this legendary mobster wrote a little happy face for emphasis at the end of a humorous sentence. Then, in the spring of 2003, I heard through contacts in law enforcement that Boxer Enriquez had dropped out of the Mexican Mafia. Frankly, no one could believe it. Several days later, I got a call from the office of John Enriquez, Boxer's father. He said Rene was interested in working on a book about his life in the Mexican Mafia, and he wanted me to write it. Would I be interested? The answer was yes. Days afterward, I was on the phone with a man I knew quite a bit about as a robber, extortionist, and a murderer. Through his violent behavior, he had climbed the criminal ladder to the upper echelon of a group widely recognized as California's leading organized crime threat, La M. We had never talked before. The Mexican Mafia is supposed to be a secret organization, and members who refer to themselves as carnales normally speak to news media under the penalty of death. Given the notes we had exchanged during a decade of limited correspondence, I was not surprised that he was articulate, engaging, and gregarious. I quickly found out that he disliked the nickname Boxer and wanted to be called Rene. I was warned that he was a manipulator, and that was true. He still reveled in his somewhat legendary reputation as a mobster, but it was clear from the outset that he had regrets. There was no doubt that he was bright, and his best, he was charming and interesting. It was impossible to leave an encounter with Rene and not wonder what he could have done with his life had he not chosen a path of crime. The alter ego of Boxer had dominated his existence, and it was clear he was trying to rediscover Rene. There was a relapse in his drug addiction after 4 years of sobriety, and early on went through a period of second guessing his decision to leave the mob. I remember that. Like early on, I regretted every moment being a PC. I hated it. I hated being a rat, coward, PC. Yeah, that stung me, right? I would listen to some recordings and I'd hear people say rat, or they'd show me a kite and it'd say that effing rat, or that PC, that coward. And I felt like that, right? It just oozed through every pore of my body, the shame of locking up. You know, how do you live 20 years of your life as this, right? This mobster, building up this reputation, getting life sentences for it, and eliminating people for it. And then you just dive. That's what we should call it, diving. He took a dive, right? He called it quits, hung up the gloves, PC'd, locked up. It's got 1,000 different euphemisms, but it's going into protective custody. And that means you got to tell. And that bothered me a lot, you know, so. But at some point I got over it, you know. I was trying to, like Chris said, rediscover myself. Like, who am I? If I'm not Boxer from the Mexican Mafia, then who am I? And I was trying to rediscover Rene. I didn't know Rene. You know, for all these years I thought I had to be something special, right? That I had to be, you know, more than. and I was doing too much. I think that's the phrase now, doing too much. Well, I was doing way too much, and it cost me my life, right? And now at the end of this, I drop out, and there's no real hope of ever getting out at this point. At this point, when we're writing this book and we're having this meeting, there's no hope of ever getting out of prison. So I'm faced with being a PC rat, a dropout, and now I am going to write a book about it. And still, there's no real aspiration of ever getting out at this point. So you're just hearing the raw me right now, and Chris talking about the raw me, and that ego was still there. It was. I mean, Chris pegged it. You could see it in the videos that I run. I was still an arrogant dick, you know. So let's run on with the rest of Chris's introduction here. Since 2002, Rene and I have met face to face for a total of about 30 hours at different lockup facilities, and we have spent endless hours on the telephone. During the last year of our book project, we talked with each other on almost on a daily basis. Our conversation far outreached material for this book. We talked about life and what it meant to be a good man, a father, a son, a Christian. There were reminiscences about his friends in the Mexican Mafia, not just mobsters, but his people. Our talks delved into the depths of evil, drugs, depravity, and death. As much as two people can when they communicate on the phone and during prison visits, we grew to know each other. I dare say, as shockingly as it may seem to some, that we developed a friendship. There is nothing in Renee's criminal past I admire. It is sad, discouraging, and frustrating to me that many young people today are choosing lives that imitate the gangster lifestyle. Boxer Enriquez helped keep alive the myth that the Mexican Mafia is fun, glamorous, prosperous, and an honorable way to live. In the years to come, I hope Rene Enriquez will do everything he can to dispel that myth. In the end, it is up to him, and only him, to prove that he is a changed man. He is, in fact, another test case for redemption. A lot of what you read in these pages comes from firsthand accounts by Rene. However, much more comes from research that includes thousands of pages of legal documents, police reports, courtroom testimony, and mafia debriefings, published news accounts, and personal interviews with law enforcement agents, prosecutors, defense attorneys, relatives, and confidential informants. In an effort to establish a consistent narrative flow, the information supplied by all above is not always referenced specifically. So, people think that the book is just my word, right? Nah, this thing was independently corroborated by multiple sources. Like, he went to law enforcement, FBI, district attorneys. He talked to victims. He talked to family members. He talked to ex-convicts and convicts. He talked to a lot of people. There's a lot of people's word in this book, right? And those people who contributed to the book know who they are. And thank you so much, because the book became a bestseller. Still selling today. And I never thought that, this story was going to become what it was. I mean, this is my launching pad right here. Believe it or not, the Black Hand launched me, and it put me on this path. First, it was about feeding the ego. That's all it was, right? But Chris hit on something early on that stuck in my head. I hope that Rene will do everything in his power to dissuade people from participating or demystifying this organization. I'm paraphrasing what he just wrote, what I just read. But I remembered that. And that's what this channel is about, folks. It's about demystifying that whole organizational life, the La Causa, and dedication to that. I want to show you the unglamorous stuff, the ugly, ugly underbelly of the organization. And you've seen a lot of it, right? And that's the whole objective of this book. If we could dissuade one person from joining, or get one person to leave, or get one person to, stop using substances, then the work is done and it's worthwhile, and I don't know who in the right mind wouldn't think that's a worthy cause. This is not capitalizing on my past life or anything like that. This is really a mission. It's become my mission statement, just to get the word out, like, hey, bro, there's peace at the other end of this. There's real peace and there's real tranquility in just stepping away from the violence and the gang life and all the madness. And like I always say, you don't have to do what I did. You don't have to do that, but there is peace. So, Chris, I heard you. Chris, I'm doing it, and I'll continue doing it until the day I die. Let's finish up with Chris's intro. The 18th century writer, thinker, and statesman Edmund Burke said, "All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." Rapidly approaching 40 years as working working as a news reporter, I have seen too many good men do nothing, not only in the underworld, but in the corporate world as well. It makes me sick. To those in the Mexican Mafia or gang associates who might be angered by this book, I simply say, do you want your sons to be in the same life? I would argue that they would strive for more. There is no true fulfillment in a life driven by drugs and fueled by blood and violence, looking over your shoulder all the time, wondering when your best friend will put a knife in your back or a bullet in your head. Also, prison walls can be forever, not just locking inmates in, but locking them out of a productive life they chose not to live. Certainly, some who find themselves on the other side of the law were driven there by mistreatment in their own homes while growing up. Others were drawn to the flame of evil through other perceived or true injustices. To them, I can only say, break the chain of mistreatment. A real man nourishes righteousness, not evil. Rene Enriquez urged me to say at the beginning of this book that I am not here to blame anyone. I don't stand in judgment. I'm not trying to tell a story. I'm trying to tell a story honestly as I can about a man, his family, and a criminal organization that shaped his life. I tell it in hopes that others can see the warning and learn from their mistakes and from broken lives. It wasn't easy, she told me, for anyone involved. So there it is, Mrs. Enriquez. That concludes the intro and my foreword. I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed reading it. I haven't read this book in years. I read the manuscript multiple times. I read this once in prison, and that was it. So I haven't read this book in a long, long time, and it brings back a lot of memories, not just of the events that I speak of here, and we're going to get into some really heavy duty stuff, but also of Chris Blatchford, the man who became my friend and best man at my wedding. Really good man, morally sound, stand-up guy. And sadly, he's older now. He's older and retired now. But I really enjoyed writing this book with him. There are some things that I disagree with about the book, but again, this is all water under the bridge. And I hope you enjoy what's to come because we have multiple chapters in this book. I think it has 41 chapters, and we're going to read each one of them. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this first episode, intro of Reading the Black Can. Okay, folks, as always, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, hype, hype, hype. Peace out. So, there you have it. Look, Chris became a dear friend of mine. When I first got out, I met him at an undisclosed location. It was actually at McDonald's, right? And we had a drink, and we talked about, possibly developing the Black Can. Nothing's come of it. We've had a few people come along down the road, show interest, but I think the stigma of American me is stuck on all prison stories. And I'm okay with that because, if it becomes a movie or a doc, that'll happen if it's supposed to. But the friendship between Chris and I has remained. And he's an older gentleman now, just happily retired, living his best life, spending times in his vacation cabin when he can. And great man, like I told you, like one of the most... one of the kindest souls you've ever met. Chris was a hard-nosed reporter. I mean, he didn't take an easy track on me. He didn't take an easy route on me. In the news stories, he pounded me, and even in the book he did that, and I remember I told him, no, don't make me look bad. He said, no, Rene, we're going to make you look bad. He says, then let people formulate who you are after the story, because all they know is this. The rest is up to you. You have to prove who you are. And thankfully, I was able to do that. And it wasn't for proving to anybody, really. Whether people like me or dislike me, I could give a F. I'm being serious, right? Like I don't really care if people like me or not. That's not why I do this. I'm certain that, I've changed the narrative in some people's minds because all that was out there was negativity and there's haters out there, and there really is, and there'll always be. People that never met me, never even seen me physically, hate me, and that's okay. I don't know them. They're wasting energy on me, and that's okay. But Chris taught me a lesson. He taught me a lot of lessons. How to be a better man, and it really is. The proof is in your works, not your words, right? And And yeah, brought back a lot of memories listening to that and reading that introduction. With that said, folks, that's going to do this episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it for you. As always, like, subscribe, hype, hype, hype. Really important for the video, particularly the series. We read the first one and it did lackluster numbers, right? So let's boost this out of the stratosphere, guys. Let's get this series up there where it needs to be. I have 50,000 subscribers and I can only get 6,000 views on the first episode. Come now, come now. We're better than that. We have a better community than that. Everybody, watch this video. With that said, peace out. Stay safe.
This is Rene Enriquez.